Welcome to TrailerSpot. In today's video, we'll be going through episode 1 of What If? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like these. The Alien Watcher talks about the limitless possibilities that make up the multiverse and where a single different choice can create a different reality. On Earth in 1943, the Nazis spread out from Germany and across Europe. The Allied scientists band together to create a super soldier, and Steve Rogers becomes Captain America. But in a different universe, a different choice created a new hero. Peggy Carter and Steve watch the preparations for the super soldier program, and Peggy points out that if the project works, Steve could end the war. They approach the head scientist, Abraham Erskine, and Peggy says that she prefers to stay rather than watch from the booth. She and the observers step back as Steve is put in the machine. Peggy sees one of the observers use a remote to trigger a planted explosive before she can stop him, and the saboteur runs to the transformation chamber. He shoots Steve when the latter tries to stop him, then grabs a vial of serum as Howard Stark looks on. Stepping up, Peggy shoots the saboteur dead. She runs to Steve, and Howard says that they're losing the power levels and need to activate the process now. When the commander, Colonel John Flynn, orders Howard to get into the chamber, Howard says that he's not a soldier, but it has to be now. Peggy puts the vial back in the machine, gets in, and Howard activates the process. When the process is over, the chamber opens and Peggy emerges larger and more muscular. As the doctors take blood samples from Peggy, Flynn complains that they've wasted money. He tells Peggy that all of Erskine's serum went into her, and analysis of her blood might show them how to make a real super soldier. He dismisses women as soldiers, much to Peggy's disgust, and walks off. Later, Peggy works out in the gym. Steve watches as Peggy knocks the bag across the room and throws another weight into the wall in anger. The 107th march passed outside, and Steve says that his friend Bucky is with them and they are deploying, but the army won't tell Steve where Bucky is going. Steve tells Peggy that she'll be the one to end the war, and the two of them flirt briefly. Nazi forces led by Hydra take over the town of Tensberg, Norway, and Howard detects gamma radiation from the clock tower. That power levels could power London for a century or destroy it. Joanne Schmidt leads the Nazis to Tensberg and finds the Tesseract hidden in the church. The soldiers kill the priest guarding it. Howard and Peggy have done research on the Tesseract, and Howard wants to send a team to take it on its way to Berlin. Flynn objects and refuses to let Peggy go when she volunteers. Peggy goes to a bar and drinks, and Howard joins her and gives a costume and a shield. Soldiers accompany Arnim Zola and the Tesseract into Berlin via motorcade. Peggy attacks the motorcade using her shield. She then jumps down from a building and uses her shield and her super strength to flip the lead truck. Peggy takes down the remaining soldiers and then takes out a burly soldier in hand-to-hand after he challenges her. Peggy steps into the back of the truck where Zola is still sitting, takes the Tesseract and returns to the Allied base and shows it to Flynn. She tells him that they won't win the war with her stuck behind a desk, and Flynn tells her that she's not qualified for field duty. Peggy tells Flynn to promote her to captain and leaves. Howard is there and says that he knows what to do with the Tesseract. Later, Howard makes a large metal suit as Steve looks on. Howard asks Steve if he's ready to join the war effort. Later, Peggy and Steve confirm where the 107th are pinned down by enemy fire. As they prepare to leave, Steve takes Peggy's hand and says that he owes Peggy one. Peggy tells him that Steve owes her a dance. In the field, Peggy takes a soldier's motorcade and crashes through the gate leading to a factory. She takes out the soldiers on guard, finds the prisoners, including Dum Dum Dugan. Bucky is there and asks who Peggy is supposed to be, and Peggy rips his cell door off with her bare hands. Peggy says that Steve sent her and she's Captain Carter. Peggy and the 107th fight their way out and Nazi tanks arrive. They take cover and Peggy calls in air support and Steve flies in wearing the battlesuit Howard made for him. Using the suit's enhanced strength, Steve stops one tank and then several more with the suit's weaponry. Peggy joins him and together they take out the remaining tanks. As the 107th join them, Steve opens up his suit and leads a cheer for Captain Carter. Soon, Peggy is fighting more Nazis. Flynn is taking credit for his decision and tells the president that he told Howard to build the Hydra Stomper. The two of them fly up and take out Nazi fighters. At Castle Crake in Germany, Joanne is examining the plaque that concealed the Tesseract. Hitler demands that Joanne come to Berlin, and Joanne says that a god doesn't answer to a man. Joanne tells the officer sent to escort him that soon the true champion of Hydra will be summoned from beyond the stars. When the officer questions him, Joanne shoots him dead and his men hold the officer's guards at gunpoint. Joanne pulls off his human mask, revealing a skinless red skull beneath, and says that Hydra will rise from the Third Reich's ashes. Peggy and Steve share a drink, and Steve tells Peggy that she's always been a fighter. He admits that he envies the respect Peggy receives, and Peggy assures him that he's her hero. Steve tells Peggy that she's his hero. Bucky and Howard arrive, and Howard realizes that something is going on between Peggy and Steve. Peggy, Bucky, and a squad of soldiers intercept the train Red Skull is on. Steve flies up in the Hydra Stomper and stops the train, and the others drop down on lines onto the top of the train. Steve breaks into the train and finds explosives, but no sign of Red Skull. As Steve yells a warning to the others, the explosives go off. Peggy and the others leap off the back of the train, and the mountain collapses into the crevice alongside the tracks. Running to the wreckage, Peggy looks for Steve. The mountain starts to come down, and Bucky tells Peggy that they have to go. They leave just as the avalanche comes down. Later, Peggy, Howard, and Flynn meet in Flynn's office, and Flynn complains that they failed. Peggy reminds Flynn that they lost Steve, not just a battlesuit, and walks off. She goes to the imprisoned Zola, who says that he will tell her nothing. After a few minutes of interrogation, Peggy tells the others that Zola told her everything. Red Skull believes he can unleash an interdimensional force that will lead Hydra to world domination or world annihilation. Red Skull is at Crake, and Peggy says that it's time to take the fight to Red Skull. She warns that they might not succeed in ending the war or themselves survive, but they will stop Hydra. The others agree to take the mission for Steve, and even Howard agrees to go with them. Soon, Peggy infiltrates Crake and opens the gate so the others can enter. They split up. Peggy and Howard go one way, while the soldiers go another. Red Skull puts the Tesseract in a machine of his own devising and has one of his men activate the machine. The Tesseract opens a portal. Bucky and the soldiers shoot their way into a room and find Hydra Stomper fastened powerless into a holding device. Peggy and Howard find the chamber with the Tesseract. A gigantic tentacle creature emerges from the portal, and Red Skull laughs in triumph and declares that the champion of Hydra has risen. Peggy bursts in, and Joanne tells her that she's too late. The creature grabs and crushes Red Skull. Bucky finds Steve nearby, manacled, and Steve tells Bucky to get him into the suit. They do so and hook the suit up to power it temporarily. Hydra Stomper falls over, and then Steve flies through the ceiling to the Tesseract room. The creature continues growing and wreaking havoc, and Peggy gets Howard to the controls to reverse the polarity of the portal and send the creature back. A tentacle pins Peggy to a wall, and she grabs a nearby sword and cuts herself free. As more tentacles pin Peggy down, Howard reverses the polarity and the creature is pulled back through the portal. Peggy anchors herself with the sword, and Steve blasts through the floor. A tentacle slams him into a wall, and Peggy cuts him free. The soldiers arrive and open fire, and Steve joins them. The creature howls and deafens everyone, and Steve gets them out to safety, then flies back in. The creature holds the portal open so Howard can't close it, and Peggy shoves it back using her shield. Steve flies in and blasts the tentacles, but his suit runs out of power and crashes. Steve crawls out of the suit and tells Peggy to stop, and she tells him that she has to. Peggy tells Steve that they'll dance the next Saturday night, then pushes the creature back through the portal and herself along with it. The portal closes and explodes, leaving the Tesseract on the floor. Steve kneels next to it, realizing that it's taken Peggy from him. A new portal opens due to the Tesseract, and Peggy emerges from it. Nick Fury and Clint Barton are there, and Nick tells Peggy that the war has been over for over 70 years. Peggy says that they'll be okay because they won the war. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and click the bell icon to get more videos like this.